Hi, my beautiful people, and welcome to another episode of Mindful the Podcast. Now, our guest today is an accomplished author whose words have the power to evoke a myriad of emotions. Joining us today is the incredible Jem Collie. Now,
Thank
Jem has
you.
written not one book, but two books. Her first book is The Damsel in Distress, Coping with Emotional Codependency Personal Disorders. And now her current book, The War in the Heavens, Breaking the Chains of Generational Curses. And that's what we'll be talking about with Jem today. Now, Jem has the gift of exploring the complexities of the human experience and making us reflect on our own lives in the process. And by the way, she's Jamaican by birth. although she gonna leave us and she now lives in the US. Welcome, Jem. Great to have you.
Greetings. The greeting is my pleasure to be here. Top of the day to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, Jem, I know I said a lot, but tell us a little about yourself.
My name, of course, is Jem C. Collie. A royal native of the capital, the island of Jamaica, Kingston, Jamaica, who migrated here in the United States of America at the age of 11, year 1993. And in my believe my ninth grade year of high school, that is when I was able to discover that I was a word alchemist. And even though my Jamaican patois was so fluent, I had one teacher just saw the gift and saw past. He didn't understand nothing I was saying, but he saw past the talent. As time progressed, I later found interest in holistic health. And once I found the interest in holistic health, I decided that I wanted to heal myself. And that's where the beginning of the authorship started. I decided to pursue the mind instead of just pursuing health. And I decided to went back to school the year of 2016 to pursue my degree in in masseuse into being a massage therapist. But I later found out that where my talent was discovering and unpacking the human mind first myself. With doing so, met few professors who found that I was talented. So that seed that was dormant in me about right as an author, it was later dug up by a professor who one day said, "Why don't you just become an author?" And it's not, I've never heard this term before, but in that moment, the seed sprouted.
Yeah,
And that was the year I decided to pursue my writing career as an author.
I love that. I love that you said that the seed was sprouted.
Mm.
I love that. And that's how, you not only started writing one book, but you reached the two books. And I mean,
Yeah.
the two books have, they describe or discuss in them some complex issues that I think are so relevant today, and especially the current book that you have, The War in the Heavens, Breaking the Chains of Generational Curses. Tell us a little about, what the book is about.
The War in the Heavens, Breaking the Chains of Generational Curses came to me few days after my first book signing. I heard the ancestral voice telling me, "Well, Jem, you know you're not done enough. You have to go back and write some more." So I decided to argue with the ancestors, these internal voices that I'm hearing. No, I'm done. We are talking about we're talking about. I'm not finished. I am finished. After all that, what I had to go through, and you want me to write again? I'm not doing any of that. And I heard that internal voice said, "All right, you'll see who laugh last. You're going to write another book." Lo to behold, a week later, I found myself writing The War in the Heavens, Breaking the Chains of Generational Curses. And that spirit of the book took over my mind once more, as it did the first time, but it was different this time. It shut everything down around me, to the point where all I had was my music with Lila Ike and Jazzy Lees and
Oh,
Barry Simon and all my reggae music, them just inspiring, playing back to back. And all I could hear in the rhythm was the information that I needed to write. And once I began to write this book, the spirit said, well, Jem, what I want for you to do is to not return to school this semester. I want for you to focus on your authorship. And I said, but how my rent and how everything else is going to get taken care of?
yes.
And the voice said, don't worry, everything will be taken care of. And so I decided not to trust it. I decided to trust my tangible self, which is my flesh, my mind, instead of my intuition. And no, that don't make no sense. I'm not trusting that. That's what I told her. Again, argumentative as a Jamaican, because we love to argue, you know. And the spirit said, okay, well, since you don't trust me, I'm going to put you in your lower self for you to go and dig up. Because if you're talking or writing about breaking generational curses, you have to first begin to break those curses within your own self. So all of a sudden, everything around me started falling apart. Lost the apartment, everything, only
Oh,
for like
no.
a few thousand, few amount of money in my account. And now I found myself in a homeless shelter.
Wow, wow.
Yeah, to one of the counselors said, Arthur, you're an author. What are you doing here? And I couldn't give the answer because I didn't know how I got there. Um, the spirit again put me in a room with 15 different women. And within that room with 15 different women, they were all different aspects of myself from different race, experiencing the same thing or things that I've experienced in the past, and decision that if I would have made this choice, this is what would have happened.
Oh,
It came to the point where the spirit showed me one woman, one Caucasian woman who was grieving her entire life. And upon her grief, she told me, she said, Jem, I've lost every single person in my family, even my only child. Ironically, her child was born the same day and the same year as me.
wow.
So she was born the same day as me, but of course, years and years prior to me. And she told me her story that the only child she had left was her granddaughter. Because this woman was coping with codependency in the form of substance abuse, I was able to understand her because I was coping with emotional codependency. So it
Okay.
wasn't with a substance, but it was with the mind, what they would call the fawning response in trauma. So that's where I was stuck. And so it humbled me to see that she was going through that. While she was there in this shelter, the only person that she had left in the family, the little girl who was staying with someone, was hung by playing in the basement of the house. And whatever she was playing with, she tripped and fell, and something hung her, and she
Oh
passed
my.
away. So it added more grief to her situation. Again, as you know, I'm in this environment, and so it humbled me. So the little feisty gem where you used to quick with temperament and fire out her mouth had to calm down because I was seeing so many different versions of myself, the 21-year-old version of me who would have made a choice, a young girl and she was looking outside of herself for this love, correct? And while
Yeah.
looking for outside of herself, she decided, I'm going to leave this environment because there's a guy that liked me that I met on Facebook, and I'm going to go to him. Ironically, when she went to see the guy, after he used her for sexual for her sexual for whatever reasons he used her for, he discarded her on the street. She happened to call me out of everyone else she could have called and asked me to help. um I panicked and I froze, and you could see the emotions in my body. You can see it, the fright. I was stuck in the fright response of trauma in that moment because it clicked to me that this seems familiar. And so I ran to the superintendent for help. and she was trying to help, but she was just so fixated on my body language and my facial expression. And all the other women there around our age group was laughing, oh, calling her names, and she's foolish and she's all kind of this. And so I said to them, they said, she doesn't listen. And I said, what about having compassion and patience? And they said, patience with her? I said, well, have you never done anything wrong that you would need someone to be patient with you? Have you ever been patient with yourself? And the whole entire room got quiet. And they said, the patient of Job. I said, impatient of Job. So I was able to speak to this young lady and walk her through her situation until she was able to get the help. Long story short, I evolved out of that situation where I just met this angel, a friend of mine out of nowhere that came in. His name was Emmanuel, and we know Emmanuel means God's with us.
Yeah.
And he told me, Jem, you're writing this book on breaking generational curses, but one thing you're going to have to work on is forgiveness. I said,
Forgiveness.
forgiveness? No, me not do that because the people that will hurt me are them cause the problem.
And
So
it's hard
again,
to forgive, you know.
yeah, man, cause all I think about, no, they have to make atonement with me first, and they have to come
Yes.
talk to me first. There's no such thing with forgiveness without atonement.
That's one of
Well,
the hardest things to do, to forgive somebody.
and the thing about it is, in order for me to have made that forgiveness, I had first had to forgive myself and how I show up in the situation, how I show up and understand that the tools that I were giving to operate in that circumstances were the tool to self-destruct. So it's not necessarily that I won't take any blame and or are there anyone to point fingers at. It's just that I take accountability for the action that I play unknowingly in the situation and have compassion over killing, not just for the other person who have inflicted that information, that that um
That
that
hurt.
pain upon me, but
Mhm.
also forgiving myself too for participating in it unknowingly. And as I sat with myself again and hearing the voice speak to me again, I said, me not forgive them, because of them did the pit and put me in it. They the one that dug this pit and put me in the pit. And the spirit said to me, but Jem, even though they dug the pit and put you in it, they were in the pit too. It was what they were used to. And so this is the generational curse. This is the generational dysfunctionality where we might think that the dysfunctionality is something that is spitefully being inflicted upon us, but we don't know that it's an adaptation of survival. One
Yes.
bad habit can become generational curse, you know,
Yes.
and out of the means of surviving a situation, but no one ever question it. And so, being the person that I am, I always want to find out the root cause of everything. You know, my father always said, you shouldn't be a detective, you know, because this is that them a detective, man. Psychologists are detective. I think detect the mind. Well, I would say Jem is more like a spiritual anthropologist, digging away
Ah,
at the mind to find out where things came from and
yes.
what caused it. So my quest as a psychologist is not just to be a psychologist, but it's to be Usain Bolt of the psychologists. Not for move fast enough, but for be one of Jamaican greatest psychologists, because I know that my culture is in need of this because we don't understand what dysfunctionality look like. Oh, a mad boy, man, that's a Sean stay. And this stay that way the big when him brother did get killed, him watching brother get killed, and him brother get killed, I just same still. Not
Yes.
understanding that Sean is suffering from a chronic stage of PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder.
That's so true. I think a lot of things that happen in our society, or maybe even the behaviors that people, and we see that in the young people now, that the behaviors in them, it's carry is not just something that is happening now, but it's carrying from long time,
Generations.
from one generation to the next. You know,
Mm-hmm.
certain behaviors that even I myself have, you know, it's something that it's carrying on, and now it's kind of embedded in society. It's like, because it come down to one, from one generation to the next and coming, we see it as a societal norm. It has become the
Yes.
norm, or we say or we feel and think that it's the norm. As you said,
Right.
you know, we see somebody and him, you know, if even now with our crime situation, it's so embedded in us that we're like, okay, somebody gets shot. Oh, oh. Okay,
Right,
and
right.
somebody
No,
we
no,
know. All
yeah.
right, moving
Yeah,
on.
the Sego. It will bury.
Simple, and it's like that's not normal. I think it should not be normal for us to be saying, okay, all right, another one gone, I'm moving on.
And
That's
and and
normal
and
behavior. It's like we don't have emotion.
I don't think that us as a people in Jamaica, because this is for the Caribbean, and because I speak with a lot of my Afrocentric my friends who are in the African diaspora and African students just as well, and we all would sit down and we make it like a joke, like we used to tell the Jamaicans, used to tell them, mommy me depressed, and then we say, you're depressed, go press your clothes, that I don't want to press you if you know about, or me I
Read a
say.
book.
Right. To the point where even in our society in Jamaica, even the music, now we have a song where they say, "Move on my way, me I'm not somebody," So it's like being mentally ill is so norm that it's acceptable in a song, and I don't think it's because that we Jamaicans are bad people. We have to survive. Jamaican people are survivor. We look about with Talawa. You
Yes,
understand? So by any means necessary. So if we have to adapt to this difficulty and make something out of it, we are gonna make something out of it and survive. So yeah, we know so we're mad, we know so we're head sick, we know so we're head gone, but guess what? We are gonna make a song out of it because guess what? Food have to eat, don't. Picnic
yes,
have to go to school, don't. Also have to get bill, don't. We have to survive, don't. Yes, if me have to bleach my skin, I know say that this is mental illness. I have to do what it is by any means necessary. So it becomes a means of survival. And again, it is the fawning response of trauma. In Jamaica, we are the kind of people who, if you don't have money, you don't hear about grief because we
mhm,
don't have time to grieve. If
yes.
your son die, your child die, we don't have those type of time to grieve because guess what? Things got to get taken care of. Bills got to get paid.
Have to keep it
Children have to go to
moving. Yes.
school. Mm-hmm.
So I know, like writing this book, I know can be a transformative, journey for you as well as others. So how did your personal experiences and journey influence the book?
Book more so influenced my personal experiences and journey. Because even though I have written this information, I am too a student of the information that I have written. Because teaching is intensified learning. And even though you're a teacher, you too have to be a student of even your own work. Because remember, it's something higher than yourself that is inspiring you to write. What it has inspired me to is to be able to show up for myself, to be able to trust myself, and to know that even if Auntie Pam cannot come and be with me in this tough situation, I am there for me. Even if someone doesn't show up to my book signing, I showed up. And so this experience is what this information, my higher self has taught me as I wrote these books. What it has taught me is to trust myself and to be able to the internalist and to be accountable for myself and to continue to dig deeper and continue to write more information, even though it's quite daunting.
And I can imagine because reading the book, it has evoked a lot of emotions within me because a lot of things in it and the way you wrote it also, that little
Mhm.
storytelling type vibe, but not only storytelling, but you went into a little of the psychology. So, I kind of learn into about the psychology aspect. I kind of learn about the theological aspect of things, and then going back into the storytelling, it really makes you have introspection. It
Mm.
really make you think about, the things that have happened to you and things how things affect you. So I loved how, you just put everything, how you wrote the book. It's not just the psychological part and you're just reading about psychological things and you can't understand nothing what you're saying. The whole like a story vibes and then giving your little experiences and talking to yourself. I remember
Right.
in one of the chapters, self and shadow.
Yeah.
So talking to each other. It's yourself you're talking to, but So I love that. I love that. And it made me understand a lot of concepts and a lot of things.
Well,
So
well, that
well
part of
done, Jem.
well, thank you. What that part of the book came from, if I might iterate on it, what that part of it came from was after coming out of the shelter and being in a physical home. I had the opportunity to hear, to be quiet. Everything around me had to be quiet. And so I had to sit with myself, and the self began to talk to me and said, hey, you know what? You know that thing that you did the last time? It was the thing that you did the last time. That was a form of self-sabotage. And I said, how was it sabotage? And the voice said, well, I'm not lie still though, Jem, but when you were at work and you had those problems with those women at work, well, that was me. So what are you talking about? And the voice said, yes, it was me. I was the one showing up, causing all the problems in your life. Why? Because I did not want for you to win. And I said, why didn't you want for me to win? And the voice said, well, Jem, if you win, I lose. And he said, what do you mean if you win, if I win, you lose? Because, Jem, whenever you accomplish stuff, you always sort out everyone else's validation. You always look for everyone else. You never come to me and ask me what I think of the situation. You never come to me and validate with me or celebrate with me or reinforce me. You never come to me and try to build a relationship with me. You don't even try to know me. You don't even try to be friends with me. So I need your undivided attention. So until you continue to ignore me, till you continue to love me and give the love I need from you, I will continue to destroy everything around you. So all the problems that you ever have in the life, every mistake that you thought that you made, me, it was me. I was the one causing the problem. So I said, no man, what kind of dope is this? What kind of thing is this? So I'm ready to fight because it's like saying, walk me outside, meet me outside. Because are you the whole time? That was you the whole time causing all this problem. And when I went outside, I was the only person out there because that was me. And what I learned in the process, again, of writing this book, that if we do not deal with our inner child, the wounded inner child, that child will show up as anything that we're battling with, even if it's a relationship of mother wound, it will show up in the relationship that we have, the emotionally unavailable man or the emotionally unavailable woman, the person who is, I will give you money, but I will never be emotionally sufficient to you. So these are the things that I have gained, some of the information that I have gained, and that is what inspired that conversation with the self.
And it's true you're talking, because self is so important. And we always, as you said, we look for validation. We look to everybody else for the validation. We talk to everybody else. We trust everybody else except ourselves. As you said before, you have to listen to that inner voice. And we tend to ignore that inner voice. We tend to ignore ourselves half of the time. We do everything for everybody else and we not do nothing for ourselves.
No, not understanding that sometimes people talk to us from even their own pain and from whatever their misunderstanding is. They're giving it to you according, because not because you are dealing or battling with something, it doesn't mean that your friend over there is not also battling with it too. Breaking generational curses is not going to look the same for everyone because everyone culture is different and everyone pain is inflicted differently. Everyone's survival is different. So breaking these curses are not going to look the same, and all curses stand united. So if you're over here breaking generational bad habits and generational curse and generational dysfunctionality, and you have a friend over here and they're not putting in that work, that curse gonna say, hey, listen, Jem over there breaking her curse. I can't let her influence Shauna over here to break her curse. Then I'm not going to be able to hold the mind of Shauna. I got to cause a disruption between Shauna and Jem. So next thing you know, you and your friend having these conflicts and you don't know where it's coming from. All curses stand united. And it's all up to you what it is that you're going to allow to rule your mind when it comes to this. It's not an easy journey. It is not for the weak, that I may say. but it's something that you have to be dedicated to.
Self-awareness and
Mm-hmm.
intentional actions. You
The
have to
thing,
have those for
and the
breaking.
thing, if
Mhm.
I'm not speaking a little bit much, but the thing with self-awareness, sometimes the dysfunctionality, sometimes the awareness is even more brutal than the trauma itself, because it's like, it's let's take for example a metaphor of getting shot, and you're running down the street and you got shot. You didn't know that you got shot until you stop and start paying attention. All of a sudden your body start going to a panic mode. All of a sudden, oh, I'm shot. Now the nervous system start breaking down. Now you start bleeding more. Now everything start happening because now the awareness of it even more makes it more intensified.
Yes. And as I agree with that, because sometimes when you go through, when you're looking, having your self introspection, the awareness sometimes really, really, that is what gets you. When you start seeing and realizing what is happening to you or what happened to you, but Jem, how can we fix or what steps can we take to start breaking the cycle, of the negativity or breaking the generational curses?
Well, some of the steps I would say to start taking with breaking those generational curses, first become aware and allowing yourself. You have to be willing. Willingness is the key to doing anything. And once you're willing, and consistency and persistency, to willing to find out what is these curses. And once you begin to find out what these curses are, you have to take steps in. You might even have to remove yourself from the environment, because you're environment where you were dysfunction, where you were created to be dysfunctional and think that you can heal there. It's not going to work. You understand? You have to remove yourself from this environment. You might even have to start anew by cutting off certain people, disconnecting with certain people, even if they're blood related. Because what you must understand is that mental health is thicker than blood, and your mental health is more important to you than anyone that you're related to. So those are some of the steps. Being accountable for your action when they begin to show up, being patient with yourself, knowing that even though I am taking accountability, this dysfunctionality, not because you get rid of it in this way, it will show up in different ways because it has many coats. It has
Mhm.
more colors in it than and Joseph's coat. So you have to understand that and do not beat yourself down. Even though, man, I thought I went there. Understand that there are going to be regression in growth. There is a period of regression, and that's fine, and accept that, but you must be willing to get back up and keep going. So accountability, self-awareness, perception, how you see yourself versus how you see the world, understanding that even though I am breaking this habit, all of it won't end with you, but at least it will begin with you. Understand that if you have children, or you begin to work on this before you have children and you start teaching them, those children are going to come and bring out some of those issues that you didn't even know was still there. So again, it's a process because it's been your generations way before you were even alive. 15, 30 years worth of generational dysfunctionality. Again, regression. So it might skip a generation and might happen in a generation again. But information and being able to pass that information down to the next generation.
Yes, and being willing to change the things that you're aware of and to change, what needs to be changed. Because sometimes we are so comfortable in the trauma. That's become so much a
And
part of us.
yes, and we also must understand that we have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable in order for changes to be made.
I love that. I love that. We have to be uncomfortable, for changes. Love
Mhm.
them. What was the most challenging part of writing the book?
Writing the book wasn't as challenging. It was more so painful. Again, because the awareness, once you begin to write these stories, and you start to see a different perspective of them. One thing when you experience something, but when you begin to write about it and see it on paper, the perception changes. It matures me. So I wouldn't say there was any difficulty when it came to writing.
Okay, okay. So this writing this book was um it was a form of therapy and that sort of thing for you?
It was a form of awareness. It was a form of acceptance. It was very humbling, and it is still humbling. It was my teacher, and at the same time, my friend, and at the same time, the provocator. It was same time it was greedy, and selfish.
Good. I love that, that you use the book for, as you said, form of therapy. And it was something to, for you to heal or help you heal. Because a lot of
Mm,
us, we're not willing to do the things that helps us to heal. For you, it's writing the book and writing about your experiences. And from
mm,
doing that, you have helped or you will be helping thousands of persons who read the book. Or if I tell somebody about the book, I know somebody that going through, the same things that you may have been going through, and I tell them to read this book, you're also helping people. So I love that you use it for your form of therapy, but others can also, use the book as part of their therapy too.
What the book
Love
is also, I apologize for cutting, but the book is also aid me in doing is being able to stand up to the Goliath in myself so that I am able to stand up for myself. It has also helped me to understand others' plight and why they behave the way that they behave. And of course, nothing is ever personal. So you understand, okay, why is this person showing up like this way in the relationship? And once you begin to work on your own dysfunctionality, you're able to recognize that dysfunctionality in someone else and be able to understand it. So once you can able to recognize the devil in yourself, you're able to recognize it in others. And so again, this book is been more of my teacher, more way beyond what they're even teaching in the institution, that sometimes I become even an annoyance to the professor because I'm way above it. Like, are you interrupting my class, Jem? We don't need it to answer the question. Yeah, let somebody else explain what you mean, Jem, because the next person next to you don't know what you're talking about. So
them in a class are going like you're brighter than everybody else.
and it, and it's not that you're brighter than everyone else, it's just you're more in tune. So it's like it clicks into me, and you're like, okay, I've worked through this already, so then I understand it from this perspective.
Going back a little, Jim, I didn't hear how did you come out of that shelter?
Hi, how did I come out of it? Ay, ay, ay. Uh, they were telling me, the counselors were telling me, well, homeless students don't go to school. And I said, no, that's not true. Again, me a Jamaican, we're going to do anything to make it work. And I continued to pursue my education while I was in this. And ironically, I had a professor who was an author as well, personality psychology. So I continued to pursue it. And when they realized that I was not going to give up on school, they said, well, Jem, you have to go because we want you to do it this way and you want to pursue your education. And I said, well, I'm going to choose me. I choose me and I choose my education. I did not know where I was going to end up, but I was excited because I was no longer going to be there. I remember he even used to cry to my boss at the time, and he used to say, "Don't cry, Jem. This is what you will call internship, because it is, because I used to complain. I said, this is a mental institution I am in. And he used to say, no, you're in internship, learning how to navigate. So what you're doing is researching, Jam. And so that is how I was able to get out of that situation.
I
It
love
is
that.
it does leave a scar on you because you might think that, am I going to end up back there again? And I would tell myself, no. Again, because it was research. You went there to learn what you needed to learn, and there's no need for you to go back there.
That's good. You take yourself out of the situation and blossom. And that's
Yeah,
what we all need to do. Use those, as you said in the book, the sunken moments. Use
the
those
sunken
things,
place.
the sunken places. Use those sunken places and you pull yourself up.
And that's exactly where the environment I was talking about when I spoke about the sunken place. Mm-hmm.
See?
Right.
I'm reading and I'm being in tuned. So as I said, Jem, I just love the book. It's an in-depth book. You know, I love your storytelling way, and I love that you bring everything to the table. It's a book that brings everything to the table. Learning about psychology, and
Mm-hmm.
terms and that sort of thing. Learning about theology and terms while being engaged, and
Mm.
learning about your situation as well as how it can affect me, and bringing in some introspection and self-awareness to me and my own situation. And I just
Mm.
love that the book addresses a lot of topics. I tell you, people, this book brought out a myriad of emotions and
Mm.
topics that it addressed, like the self-respect,
Mm-hmm.
communication, and even mental
Mm-hmm.
health. And I know a lot of Jamaicans, they are mad out,
Right.
as
It's
Valiant said. We need to
right.
read the book, because it touches on your mental health as well. And
Funny,
yes,
funny enough, a friend of mine, she said everywhere I went, I was reading this book, and she said I was on the toilet crying. She said, "Jem, I wanted to fight you because you made me cry." I was sitting down everywhere I was going. I was crying because I could relate so much. And when I began to tell so many different people, I was frightened at whom it was relatable to. I never thought that a man was able to relate to the situation. You would say, "Oh, that's my relationship with my mother," or someone from a different race could relate to it. And so this is why I said that even though it is your story, it is a story of so many different races, but it just expresses itself in a different culture.
yes, yes. And, it's very relatable. And I just want to share with my listeners, you know, I just want to share with you something from the book, a little snippet from your book, Jem,
Thank
which
you.
I think it's um very relevant and everybody should think about. And it says, if you remain unchanged, everything in your body stays the same.
See,
However, if
yes.
you start to entertain new thoughts, they will lead to new behaviors. These behaviors will create fresh experiences that will inspire further new thoughts, beginning a process that will ultimately alter your biology. Gem, brilliant, brilliant,
Thank
brilliant,
you.
brilliant. Because a lot of us, a lot of us, including me, we get stuck in the same old, and we tend to complain. You know, we complain, me can't do this, me can't do that. My circumstances, me are not this, me not gonna get rich, me not gonna get that, me can't be an author, me can't do this. We complain a lot. The system and the Babylon system and all of those things, you know? And sometimes this little snippet that I read, it just shows that sometimes and people are do things to we, and we need to just adapt new way of thinking. Why everything that happened to me and nothing that happened to the next one? Why Jem can be an author and write 4 book? I mean, sit down and can write and now put a pen to a paper. Not true. So,
True.
sometimes it's our thoughts, you know. You say, yeah, you can't, if you don't do nothing, you will be unchanged. New thoughts, new way of thinking. And just as how you went through it, that new thought, the new way of thinking, it will bring out the range of emotions and bring out the trauma and all of that. Sometimes we have to go through that to have a new beginning, you know. And let me read another. I love this in a gem. Let me
Please.
read another part.
Please.
When we are talk about, it says this implies that you need to restrain your taste buds to recognize the
Yes.
flavor of health,
Food tastes like. Yes.
your inner ear to discern the sound of
God, truth sound
honesty,
like.
and your internal sight to perceive the appearance of love. You must remain still, grounded in truth, and seek to understand the DNA A of your pain. If you don't understand where you come from, you're not gonna move forward. And a
That
lot
one
of
there,
us
money
don't
pull up for that one
understand.
there. Money pull up for that one there. Money pull up, that one there tough. And the
Yeah,
thing about it is,
I know me
what,
says
what,
so, I used
and
to so
James says
Jerry.
so. That one there tough. You know how many money pull-ups I had to go through while I was re-listening, because again I'm visually impaired, so my devices read it back to me. And so many times, my mother was in the background laughing because I was money pull up in hitting on the wall. Jam, I scream, "Mom, what you mean?" You know. But the thing about it is, a lot of times we don't want to. In order for changes to make, there has to be some kind of agitation, right? Pressure
Yes,
must fight,
yes.
right? But we also have to be able to have a compare and contrast what right is versus what's wrong is. There's a lot of times where even a lot of children are being molested in their homes. They don't know that is because it's okay, no one says anything. But then when they begin to go to a new environment, when they begin to go to school and they start teaching what molestation look like, what is wrong for not to be touched like this by no one, they go to the teacher, but Mr. Taylor, my mother do this and my mother do that. So therefore, if we have a compare and contrast, we can't understand that we are operating in dysfunctionality until we know what functionality looks like.
True, true. And that is it. We have to understand where we come from, and see and
Mm-hmm.
expose ourselves to new things and new ideas, new thoughts, you know, to move forward. And a lot of us need to move forward, have new ideas, see things out newly. So thank you for that, Jam. And just
No.
to wrap up, wrapping up a little, what words of encouragement
Hmm.
what words of encouragement or advice, would you give to my listeners, who are seeking to break free from, all these generational curses and to create positive change in their lives?
Dear listeners, what I would like for you to do, to be steadfast. I want for you to be persistent. I want for you to give yourself a chance. I want for you to never give up on yourself, to stay the course. Let's take, for example, of race. We love to run, we love everyone everywhere, right? Even if no one is there cheering you on, stay the course. Even if no one is there in the background, the lights are gone, there's no audience, you're the only person running, complete the race. You must complete the race. You must complete everything that you begin. Not because you want to be a winner for everyone, but because you have to do this for you. Pursue your own goals. If you do not continue to push forward, what will end up happening is someone will use you as a wheelbarrow in their next project. So you must push forward for your own self. Be diligent. Be consistent in everything that you do. Be patient with yourself. Nothing comes overnight. Please understand that. And work on understanding yourself and where the trauma first breakdown begin. Sometimes breakthrough can look like breakdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Always closer than you think. That's what I would say.
Well said. I don't need to say nothing more. Well said, Jem.
Thank you.
Jem, thank you so much for, enlightening my listeners.
Thank
And
you.
I hope that everybody goes out and get your book, because just as how I read it and I find it so good, more everybody. How can we get your books? How can we get in touch with you?
You can get in touch with me through Instagram at GEMBOUKS _ Gem Books, gembooks.org. You can also get in contact with me at GEMBOUKS21 at yahoo.com. You can find my books on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, Lulu. Just go to Google and type in Gem Collie, and you will find me there. And I'm always willing and open to hear you and listen to your story.
Great, great, great. And guys, I will also put everything for Jem in the show notes. So you'll see everything there, and where you can get the books and links. So I'll put that in the show notes. So don't fear. So thank you again, Jem. Thank you for, coming on and just talking about generational curses and talking about your book, which I implore everyone to get. The War in the Heavens, Breaking Generational Curses. All right. And Jem, I have to go pick up the first one because this one's so good. More on get the first one, the damsel in distress.
Yes, hopefully I'll
Get
be
that
able to.
one.
Hopefully I'll be able to make it to Jamaica soon, so I'll be able to talk because I believe that we Jamaicans we need this information desperately.
And you're a Jamaican doing good and big things. Love that.
Thank you. Thank
So
you.
thank you, Jem. Thank you for coming on. And thank you for, as I said, enlightening my listeners on generational curses. Guys, get the book, The War in the Heavens by Jem C. Collie. You won't be disappointed. I can tell you won't be disappointed. Thank you, Jem.
Thank you, my listeners, and thank you as well.